Today's totally excellent pick is brought to you by Aurora's Access Public.
Yes.
Sorry. Thought I had it.
Welcome to the Live Up Podcast, where we watch the movies from our youth to see if they live up. Quick note on how this will go. We will review, discuss, and score the movie in question to see if it lives up to us as adults and whether it lives up to kids today. I'm Jess Latterman.
And I'm Amanda Treat. On today's episode, we learn that it's actually pronounced Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land. Today's totally excellent movie pick is brought to us by Aurora's Channel 10 Public Access Channel 1992's Wayne's World. Party on, Jess.
Party on, Treat.
Jess, what is your history with Wayne's World?
Yeah, so I don't remember whether I saw this in the theater. I don't think I did. I think I was too young to watch any of the SNL clips, but I watched this a lot. My brother and I probably watched this enough where I really did have some of the dialogue memorized. And I think some of it, just like other movies we've talked about, just like become the vernacular, like party on, game on, game off, all of that stuff. I still quote game on, game off. And as I was relating this to my kids while we were watching, they were like, okay, they thought it was really lame. So I started watching this with both my kids. Reminder, my daughter's 13, my son is 8. Only Isaac finished the movie with me.
Oh,
But yes,
really?
I did start it with both of them.
Oh, man. I definitely saw this in the theater.
Did you?
I think this was one of the
Again.
first movies where my parents, probably because the ad looked really annoying or they'd seen the SNL skit too, they dropped us off at the theater. So I remember like freewheeling. Yay, it's just the kids, the tweens sitting in the movie theater or watching Wayne's World thinking we're so cool. I had seen the SNL skit because at a certain age, my parents started taping Saturday Night Live for us, and then they would watch it in the morning and decide whether it was appropriate
Really?
or not for us,
But-
and like let us watch specific skits.
Really?
Like,
But they would go to that trouble, but they let you as an 11-year-old
yeah.
and a 4-year-old watch Silence of the Lambs? Like,
they didn't know about that, but yeah,
that doesn't make any sense.
it doesn't at all. Yeah, no, they didn't know about the Silence of the Lambs things, but they were very cautious about Saturday Night Live.
Okay, interesting.
Which, congratulations again, it just celebrated its big 50th.
I'm realizing as a kid, my family, we were like an In Living Color family. So we watched that
Yes.
regularly.
I absolutely watched In Living
Oh,
Color
yeah.
every week as well too.
And so Jim Carrey, Dwayne, all the different,
all the Waynes.
all the Waynes.
Yeah.
I guess SNL was on my radar, but I think when I was a kid, I like merged these two together. I didn't necessarily realize they were separate shows.
I was familiar with these characters because I'd seen the SNL skits a bunch of times. I remember thinking this movie was so fun, so cool, so irreverent, like not quite
Totally
the
cool.
impact that Wednesday Addams had on my personality, but we were all talking like this movie for years
Oh yeah,
afterwards.
100%.
Or like sarcastically saying to an adult, like, that's cool. Not.
Oh my God,
like,
that whole thing.
Dropping a not after a sentence was a vocabulary the entire country had for years.
Yeah,
It was
that did
ridiculous.
resonate with my son. I'm actually surprised he hasn't repeated it back to me since we've seen the movie.
Oh,
but
you're gonna get it at some point.
thought it
I
was
can't
pretty
wait to go
funny.
to bed. Not.
yeah, oh my God, yeah. If he remembers, he will.
That's cool, Mom.
Not. Yeah.
Do you remember? This was right when the Treat family finally got cable. Right around the
Okay.
time this movie came out, they did this special on MTV that lasted like the whole weekend, where Wayne and Garth they took over MTV and
I think I remember that.
played music videos and like did little bits
Yeah.
in between, and I think I watched that on repeat as well.
Yeah.
Like, I was obsessed with this was everything that was cool when I was in my late elementary school, early junior high years.
Yeah.
Formative stuff here.
I feel like lines from this, like not game on, game off, or hi, I'm in Delaware. All those lines are to the 90s, I think, what Bueller is to the 80s. I mean,
Maybe
100%. Our little micro generation uses this. I mean, there's been times where people
we
my
do.
age in work settings will say game on, game off sometimes.
I literally was walking up the street the other day, and by the way, this is the first Rob Lowe usage of literally in this movie with the weird pronunciation that he does on Parks and Rec over and over again. He does it in this movie. I was walking up the street with my neighbors and our 10-year-old neighbor friend, and a car was coming down, and like all the sidewalks are ice right now.
Yeah.
So as the car is coming down the hill, I was just like, car.
Nice.
I needed like a Marco Polo on that. Someone in the background being like, game on.
I know you totally did. If I were there, I would have done it if I were there.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. So, Jess, would you like to summarize Wayne's World for our listeners?
Yeah, this is more of a retroactive type of description, but I would say this is the OG Beavis and Butthead, but funnier. Technically, it's about two guys who have a slightly cringy cable access show out of their mother's basement and go on to satirize all kinds of movies and generally satirize the 90s in general.
I want to tuck a piece of hair behind my ear and nod my head and go, all right. All right. So I like to do my nerdy notes here. First of all, I once again watched this on DVD.
Of course
Shout
you
out to
did.
the Boston Public Library.
God.
And the DVD menu, I started texting you about this. The DVD menu is a work of art.
Yeah.
Should go into the Smithsonian. So it starts with somebody clicking through random cable channels and different commercials
Yeah.
from that era, like the clap on, clap off,
Oh
and
my
the
God,
Chia Pet
classic.
and all those things. And then clicking onto the menu for the movie with the special features and all that, but it's laid out like a TV program menu that you would get on, if you just took a remote and went onto cable.
Yeah.
And it's got Channel 10, 8 p.m., Wayne's World, Channel
That's so
11,
fun.
Solid Gold Workout, 8:30, Brady Bunch reruns, Channel 12, special features, 9 p.m., like this random movie, 1979 Sunburn, and you can click on them and actually watch old clips of the Brady Bunch, or you can
Really?
watch this random Solid Gold Workout.
Oh my
They're
God.
so hilariously bad. Like the Brady Bunch episode was the Marsha meltdown, which
Yeah.
is funny. So whoever designed the menu for the DVD deserves an award, and they don't have an award for that. But it was so funny to just click through all these old clips and be like, what am I watching? This is ridiculous. And that was the experience of cable back in the day.
Yeah. You're going to have to go through that menu and take a video, and I will put it on the gram for everybody to experience.
So good. I'm just telling you, this is the one time the DVD experience greatly exceeded streaming. This was so good. All right, so Wayne's World, as our listeners hopefully heard us just say, but it started as a Saturday Night Live skit. And actually, just the character of Wayne started as a Second City comedy bit that Mike Myers wrote when he was there and took with him when he went to Saturday Night Live. And once arriving there as like the newbie, they made him add a more senior actor to the sketch. So they brought on Dana Carvey playing Garth, which is an awesome pairing, even
Awesome
though
pairing.
it sounds like they behind the scenes were butting heads because Dana Carvey was like, I've been here longer, like I get more lines, and Mike Myers was like, this is my whole thing. No. And
Interesting.
creative differences, we'll call it. When it became time to make a movie, it wasn't Saturday Night Live's first movie. I think The Blues Brothers was before this, but this is their all-time most successful movie ever. To this day, this has beaten the box office out of every other movie they've ever made. They pulled in some of the Saturday Night Live writers. It was Bonnie Turner, Terry Turner, husband and wife, or excuse me, I said that backwards. Wife, husband. They went on to do Third Rock from the Sun, that 70s show.
good
Like they're
shows.
comedy icons. Yeah. So they did the writing along with Mike Myers. And then they brought in Penelope Spears, who was like buddies with Lorne Michaels, and he had brought her onto Saturday Night Live to teach Albert Brooks how to direct the SNL shorts.
Oh, wow.
But she's like this rock documentarian. She knows rock and she knows how to direct. They put her on this movie, but it's like so much cooler.
So much
because of it. Like,
cooler. I mean,
and
it's so
she-
funny you say that she was like a rock documentarian, because I actually noted while watching this that it really captured the 90s rock
Yeah.
and roll vibe. And that's the kind of, 90s are back now in a lot of weird ways that are like not great for fashion, but they're back.
yeah.
I'd say that rock and roll is not quite back in the early 90s way, but this movie really captured it. It's like the one
Yeah.
piece of the 90s that hasn't like come back around. I'm not saying it should, but it absolutely captures a moment in time, I think, for rock and roll.
does.
For sure.
We're gonna take a dive on this in a second.
Okay,
'cause I
I've read
wanna
none of
talk-
your notes.
I want
so-
to talk early 1990s rock and roll, so we're gonna do that. But a huge part of why it has that vibe is Penelope Spears. is directing this.
Nice.
She thought Mike Myers was a total pain in the ass diva. She refused to direct the sequel, but we really appreciate her handiwork on this film because it's awesome. And I believe she actually won a Grammy for they like redirected a music video for Bohemian Rhapsody, and she like won a Grammy for it or something.
Nice. Oh, right.
Yeah,
It captured.
good for
I mean, I'm
her.
talking about it. Okay. Are we going to talk about rock and roll later? Because
Let's jump down to rock and
we
roll.
don't have
right
to do it now, but listeners, I have not read any of Amanda's notes.
That's a shame. I took a deep dive here.
I am
Deep,
like,
deep
where are we
dive,
going,
Jess.
Amanda? Guide me.
Yeah.
We're going out of order.
is-
We throwing the outline
Jess has
out.
been the family has been a little sick, so
Oh,
we're
God, yeah,
giving a
like,
lot of
what's-
leeway here.
It's
All
been a
right.
week, guys.
Rock and roll in this film. This is the end of the really like heavy metal, like metalhead era because grunge is just starting.
That's
as
right. Yeah,
this
92
comes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Nirvana has just dropped their first big album, Nevermind, right before this film came out. Freddie Mercury just died before this film came out. Like this,
and
really
they have
like
the whole
this
Queen
transition.
thing. Yeah.
And yeah, Queen is just so epic in this. And they
Epic.
like made a huge comeback, and Bohemian Rhapsody hit its highest point on the charts. It still has this metal impact, but it's a like dying art form in a way. It's not dead.
It's not dead, but
I have coworkers who still go to Hellfest every year. Like it's still out there, and we love it. But
Bohemian Rhapsody became like similar. If folks watch Stranger Things, the Kate Bush Running Up That Hill became a #1 song a couple years ago over the summer. And I feel like it's very similar where the Bohemian Rhapsody was a huge hit amongst our age demographic at the time of this movie,
Yeah.
which might have been probably hilarious to our parents. But
well, so Lorne Michaels from Saturday Night Live produced this movie. He wanted that whole montage to be Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses. And Mike Myers said, I will walk off this film if you don't use Bohemian Rhapsody. So
it
he
had to be Bohemian
had that.
Rhapsody.
Yeah, he like knew what the scene was going to be in his heart. And was just like, we're reaching deep and pulling this weird operetta that Queen recorded
And
that
it's
they never
so
played on the
weird.
radio.
But this became a music video, like you were saying before, for MTV. I mean, I watched that particular scene probably a million times.
It's so funny and it's so good. And it's such a beautiful montage of people who live in the suburbs and are just trying to like find their adult selves and
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to be cool so badly in like their friend's shitty car and everyone's crammed in there. They're headbanging. Do you remember, maybe not, but like when headbanging injuries were a major concern?
Did not remember that.
That was a thing when I reached junior high. They were warning us, like, oh, you know, we'll play Bohemian Rhapsody at the school dance, but like no headbanging to it. You guys could all injure yourselves because of this movie.
That's so
Like,
funny.
so silly. Also, widely known thing at this point, but Dana Carvey did not know the lyrics to Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
You can so see it.
Oh, that's
in this
hilarious.
scene. He's just like doing the watermelon thing while everyone else knows all the words.
Oh, I
and are
didn't
like,
notice that.
like hitting all the notes and
Yeah.
stuff and really getting into it. And Dana Carvey's just like, what are we doing? Yeah, nothing matters.
That's so funny.
So yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody scene. I honestly think that's one of the funniest musical montages of all times. It's
Love it.
So
I
so
still
good.
greatly enjoyed it. I think this is where nostalgia came in. But I also will say, like, when I watched the Queen biopic, I forget what it was called. I think it was called Bohemian
It was
Rhapsody.
called Bohemian Rhapsody.
When they depicted the whole creation of that particular part of the song, I mean, that resonated with me.
You've got a director who had made, she's got this like trifecta of punk rock documentaries, The Decline of Western Civilization. She passed on directing this as Spinal Tap.
No.
That would have been kind of crazy. It would have been a totally different film, but
Yeah,
it would have been
I
like
don't
maybe a Wayne's World vibe. I don't know. She went on to do other comedies, like she worked with Chris Farley and she worked with a lot of the Saturday Night Live people. She's able to make the phone call. She's got Alice Cooper in there. I had never noticed it, but the Meatloaf cameo where he's just playing the doorman at one of the clubs.
Oh my
they
God,
go
I
to,
totally missed that. I totally
he's-
missed that.
He plays Tiny the bouncer, and like he's not an actor at this point. I mean, he went on to do Fight Club eventually, so I'd consider him an actor.
Yeah.
Or no, he was. He was in the Rocky.
I was
Horror
gonna say he
Picture
was in
Show.
Rocky
What am I talking
Horror.
about?
Oh my God, I totally missed it. Which scene was he the bouncer? Because I remember Chris Farley plays, I thought, a security guard.
Right at the beginning when they go to
Yeah.
the gasworks.
Yeah.
and hear Cassandra's band for the first time, he's the bouncer at the door.
Totally
He
missed that.
doesn't seem comfortable playing
Like an
any role.
acting
I don't know.
role.
Like he just didn't seem like proper Meatloaf in that. But he's the one where they're like, "Who's playing tonight?" And he goes, "The Shitty Beatles."
Oh yeah.
And how are they? They suck. Oh, so it's not just a clever name. Like that line always stuck with me for some
Yeah,
reason.
yeah.
Like, oh,
It's
that's
pretty funny.
Like the Shitty Beagle. But I never noticed that was Meatloaf
No,
delivering that whole.
I didn't even notice
bit.
this time around.
Yeah, no, there's Meatloaf hiding in there.
Well, the Alice
Frank-
Cooper cameo, honestly, is still like
That's so good.
it's so good. I mean, I think in my head, I've always pronounced that since I've seen this movie for the first time, it is
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee or bust. That's it. Yeah. I was trying to like
He-
describe that to my kids why that's funny, and
Oh.
it didn't really work. I mean, I was like, because I don't think they actually understood the satire because they don't know who Alice Cooper is. So
No, and they don't understand his reputation coming out of the 80s.
No,
Like,
yeah,
he was
it's
up there with
totally-
Ozzy
I
Osbourne.
know.
He's this glam, but like scary and like.
I feel like to
I
my
don't
kids
know.
he looked like a clown, so like it didn't work for them.
I don't think I listened to him when I saw the movie, but I knew who Alice Cooper
Of course,
was.
you recognized him though as a glam rock star, even if you didn't know who he
Which-
was, which doesn't exist these days.
Shout out to our friend Sarah, who we've referenced on this podcast
Hi, Sarah.
before, but she has a sister who's named
That's
after
right.
Alice
She
Cooper,
does.
and she's not named Alice. She is named Cooper.
But I
Um,
mean, as a kid, I didn't know who that was, and I think the whole glam rock of the '80s is something that's a little lost on the kids these days.
I think, yeah, I think that was a time and a place joke, but I totally got it when I was a tween sitting in the movie theater because I knew Alice Cooper's supposed to be scary.
Yeah, I feel
and
like I
now
knew
he's sitting
that.
here sounding like the Encyclopedia Britannica and wait, what's going on here?
yeah, that was pretty.
And it
funny.
gradually came out after the movie that Alice Cooper is actually very smart, has a high IQ, like would probably lecture people on the history of Milwaukee
Yeah.
and like use the traditional names and terms but yeah, he's awesome. We love Alice Cooper.
Nice, good job.
He taught us it was pronounced Milwaukee. One thing I do want to call out is that coming out of the 80s, rock and roll in like that heavy metal era had such a pearl clutchy reaction from people in suburbs.
That's
And then you
right.
had Wayne and Garth come along and they've got their AC/DC t-shirts
They
on and they're
do.
really, really into metal, but they're just the nicest guys and they're dorks.
They are.
And they
are
don't really
dorks.
drink and they don't really swear and they're not offensive to parents. And that this was a whole softening of the genre, maybe, whether the genre wanted it or not.
Not.
But
I couldn't help myself.
it matches my experience, though, with people who are really into metal, is like they're usually your IT guy. And, like,
Right.
they're the nicest. They might have a motorcycle, but they're also like into bird watching or, like they just.
They're into bird watching.
All right, let's dive into our main characters. So this is Wayne's World. We got to talk about Wayne, played by Mike Myers. Let's do a quick "Where is he now?"
Where is he
because
now?
I just saw him on the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary episode playing Linda the Coffee Talk Lady.
Like one of my favorite all-time characters.
What did you think of the accents in that sketch? Did you see it?
Yeah, as you know, and maybe as listeners know, I am from Long Island, and I love it because
She loves some coffee talk.
she's every booby. I mean, and I loved it as a kid. This has nothing to do with Wayne's World, but I was like, where has he been in my adult middle-aged life? Where is he?
So he is still very actively out there, but he does not need to be because I Googled a ranking of like where the cast members of Saturday Night Live,
Yeah.
and it basically turned into this like net worth calculator. He and Eddie Murphy are like tied for second for the most money ever. from
Really?
someone who was on Saturday Night Live.
Wait, who's first?
all that Shrek money.
Oh, Shrek. That's right.
The person with way more money than anyone. This is gonna blow your mind.
Should I
You're not
guess?
gonna guess. Try to guess.
Okay. Well, just give me one clue.
A lot of movies.
A
A lot
lot.
of movies. They're not good.
They're
but
not.
lots and lots of movies, and occasionally some animated stuff.
Ugh, I have no idea. Wait, lots of movies, animated stuff, and they're not good movies. Oh my god.
No.
I mean, I guess I was gonna guess Tina Fey, But
No.
uh
Adam Sandler.
okay. That was gonna be my second guess. And you're right. His movies are stupid, except for The Wedding Singer. There, I said it.
Wedding Singer and 50 First Dates is also an excellent
I've
movie.
never seen that.
Anything with Drew Barrymore in it.
So you had sent me the SNL 50 clip, and I've watched about half of the show. But watching him in that, playing Linda, I was like, oh my God, I miss
Oh
him.
my
He's so
God.
funny.
When Mike Myers pops into the SNL 50th bit playing Linda again, and it's Amy Poehler and it's Maya Rudolph doing their Bronx talk, or I forget what it was officially
Yeah.
named, but it was the coffee talk bit. He walks in behind them and they just go, "We're not worthy."
I know, I
From
love
Wayne's
that.
World. It was so good.
So good. So good.
Yay,
I loved it.
All right.
Anyway.
So we should actually talk about
We
Wayne
should. We
and
should
not
talk about
Mike
the movie.
Myers, but
Yeah.
we do love Mike Myers.
We're like halfway
He-
through this episode. We haven't talked about the
I
movie
know.
yet.
Oh my God, this is crazy. Let's
hot mess
talk
today.
about let's talk about Wayne
do it.
of Wayne's World. So I'm not sure how old Wayne is. He lives with his
good
parents.
question.
Doesn't seem like he went to college. We never see his parents. We never actually see like his bedroom or like the upstairs of his house. We just see the basement. But he seems to be like guy crashing at his parents' place with a
Yeah,
heart of gold.
Totally.
And I think everybody who's saying, "Oh, I love watching Wayne's World" on that silly cable access channel is feeling the same thing. Like he's just got something that's
Yeah.
funny to watch.
He's like a
great.
loser on paper, but he's
Yeah.
kind of a hero on screen. And he makes fun of himself for living with his parents. And he's like, his whole "I have an extensive collection of name tags and hairnets" is such a good
know.
line.
And you feel that, or like I felt that as a tween, and I wasn't even old enough to legally be working yet. But it was just like, oh,
Yes.
bummer, man. Like you're not doing what you want to be doing with
Yeah,
your
you
life.
kind of
and
get that he's like kind of, I don't want to say lazy, but there is like a 90s trope of like a guy who's just like, yeah, whatever. And they just kind of float by. And
Yeah, that was like the slacker.
the slacker era. That's what. Thank you
Yeah.
for using the word that I was dancing around. He's sort of like he's gonna stick it to the man, yet he's funny. He's cruising around in his shitty car, going to like awesome donut shops, talking to the camera. I love it.
I want to be friends with Wayne. I get why people gravitate to Wayne.
Yeah, my son really took to him. He thought he was funny, and he's brought Wayne up since in a way. Like he even asked, he's like, "What's the name of that guy from the movie we just watched?" And I was like, "Oh, Wayne."
With the mullet.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh yeah, Wayne's World."
Teach Isaac what a mullet is, by the way.
Isaac kind of has a mullet, to be honest. He laughed at all the guy kind of humor jokes that
Yeah.
I sort of questioned my parenting, how much Isaac laughed at Wayne. The little bits of his unhinged ex-girlfriend, Stacy, I found to be sometimes cringy, but sometimes so funny. And Isaac just loved it. The idea of an insane ex-girlfriend is kind of funny because it's kind of innocent, right? It's not, there's no like
Yeah.
abuse kind of crap here. I mean, there's something slightly cringy about it because, like, you're definitely putting down the woman, but she's crazy, and so
She's crazy and like very physically comedic.
yeah. So the whole gun rack scene, I have to bring this up because I watched this clip online, which made me want to do this movie for the podcast.
By the way,
Yeah.
is based on an actual ex-girlfriend of
No.
Mike Myers who got really mad at him for putting this in the movie.
Oh,
because she was
my
just
God.
like, "You should have told me you were putting that in the movie."
Oh
it was
my
like the
God.
perfect Stacy moment, except this actually all happened.
I'm just going to replay it for listeners. It's like, you know, he sees the ex-girlfriend. You could tell that he doesn't want to see her, that they're not together anymore. She gets him a present. And he's like, if that's a severed head in there, I'm going to be very upset, which is such a crazy line.
It's a great
And
line.
my son was like, what? And he thought it was funny. And then it's a gun rack. Mike Myers goes into the whole spiel of like, I don't even own a gun, let alone enough guns to necessitate a gun rack. And the way that he says it, he just uses words like
almost a little-
necessitate. It's like,
Yeah. He accentuates certain words. I don't want to say he's got a Canadian accent here because he does not. He's been in Chicago for a while at this point. But like, yeah, he's talking in a very uniquely Wayne and Garth way. And that's the thing. They became this whole vocabulary for kids in the early 90s.
I laughed so hard at the scene again. It lives up to adults. I will say my daughter was still watching at this point and she thought it was kind of mean-spirited. Like, I don't think she really liked it that much. And I think maybe if we hadn't grown up with it, we would think it was a little weird.
Yeah.
I think what's relatable about Wayne is that he's sort of faking it to make it. So even there's a whole scene in a bar where the Rob Lowe character is trying to like woo them into a
There's
contract.
schmoozing going on.
And he gives them a contract, and Wayne gets out his pen and he's like, oh, let me review it. And he's like totally saying nonsense words, pretending to be a lawyer. And it's kind of relatable and it's funny. In some ways, it makes him less of a loser. You know, it makes him endearing.
I like that Wayne has these very clearly stated goals at the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
He right out says, like, I would love to get paid to do Wayne's World for a living. Awesome.
Yeah.
Clear. Great. He also
Awesome.
pauses to look at the guitar of his dreams. Yes, he would like to have that. Like, these are silly goals.
Yeah.
And he states moving out of his parents' house. Yay. Great. But by the time we get to the ending, he's got the guitar. He's still living with his parents. He's not necessarily with Cassandra, and he's been fired from Wayne's World. But at the same time, he has grown to a point where the thing that he wants to do is help Cassandra achieve her goals.
Yeah, it's kind of sweet.
It's very sweet. Wayne is generous, and I like that about this character.
I didn't remember this plot point of the movie, but just to catch folks up. So fast forward, Cassandra, who's like the hottie, we'll get to that. I thought she was awesome. But anyway, they break up and like she's like doing a music video, whatever. Wayne's whatever, doing his thing. And he wants to get her back. But the way he wants to get her back is not just to be like, oh, I'm so awesome, she should be with me. It's I'm going to help her get her big break from like a music standpoint, right? Because the whole thing is that Cassandra's like the leader of a band. And he orchestrates this whole thing, and it's all ridiculous and satires action movies, but it's funny. I'm going to control the satellite, which will get down to the limo because, you know, when someone's watching TV in a limo, and this goes over the head of kids.
Garth hacks some whole scheme and then goes, it's almost too easy, and you have no idea.
What he's doing.
And even with modern
Hilarious.
technology, that would be a very difficult thing to pull, but definitely in 1992, you couldn't just rig this out of your
but there's something
home
sort
computer.
of fun about that. And then it's not, you're right, it's not clear. I mean, you kind of assume they get back together, but you're like, all right, we're going on this quest because we want to get Cassandra to get a big break, and Wayne is doing the thing. And it's so endearing. It's so fun. It's just a fun ride.
Endearing. Yeah, he really genuinely wants to help Cassandra by the end of this movie, and that's a really nice goal for him to have shifted to. I hope he does move out of his parents' house relatively soon, but, you know, like, help Cassandra. That's a bigger goal there.
One small note, though, with like him and Cassandra. Well, first of all, like there's just funny things about their cute little relationship, but he basically sees her on stage at the gasworks and she like rocks out. And they have the whole like sequence of the dreamy sequence that he loves this woman. There's something that's like slightly cringy that they make it all about the fact that she's super hot. But yet at the same time, he kind of respects her as a musician. So there's something kind of like interesting about that.
I went back and forth on that.
Yeah.
I totally get what you're saying. I really like the way they portrayed his sudden crush. It's juvenile, but I feel like
it is juvenile.
People
yeah.
just suddenly see someone across the room and, you know, that love at first sight thing. But they cut away from her. You know, I forget what she's singing that first scene where
I forget, but it's good.
She's wailing. She's awesome. She's like, she's got her heavy metal. Yes. They always cut away to Dreamweaver, which is super cheesy as hell, but it's portraying that like he's just smitten with her and it's sudden and it's just juvenile crushy.
Yeah, I felt the need as a parent to tell Isaac, well, I think he really likes her because she's an awesome musician. And then I was like, oh, and by the way, Isaac, she's a musician in real life. This is her singing. Yeah. And he was like, oh, cool. I felt like I needed to like give her some dimension.
Yeah, just because she's dressed in lingerie every time she's on stage.
And the other thing I have to talk about with Wayne is like one of my favorite parts of the movie. So part of the stick it to the man part is like they have their cable show. Now it's a big deal. And the Rob Lowe character makes Wayne and Garth interview the sponsor, who's the guy who owns a bunch of arcades. I think we've seen him in a movie before recently.
We definitely have seen him before. That's Bill Murray's brother.
What? That's Bill Murray's brother?
Who got referenced on the SNL 50 show.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, we've seen him in Groundhog Day and we've seen him in Scrooged.
Yes. That's right. He's in both of those movies.
He's playing Noah Vanderhoff and he owns Noah's Arcades, which that is a funny title for like an arcade.
It is. Noah's Arcade is
stupid
a
as hell,
little on the nose.
It's funny.
But it's funny.
It's stupid and funny.
So Wayne like resists. He's like, I don't want to interview this guy. Like, fuck you. Stick it to the man. But then, so he's like, okay, well, let me take some notes. And like the production staff and Rob Lowe are like, okay, he's taking this seriously. He's doing what we want.
They're giving him his little cue
He's
cards.
giving his
to,
cue
like,
cards.
interview with.
And then as he interviews him, and I did not remember this, but on the back of the
did.
cue cards, which Wayne very prominently holds up so the camera can see it, are just like increasingly funny insults with an arrow pointed at Vanderhoff. And like just one example of the one that really sent my son was there's basically an arrow pointing to Vanderhoff and it says, "This man has no penis." And I'm like, it's such
Still funny.
it's still funny.
It is still funny.
Isaac was like, "This man has no penis." He just like lost his mind. And I'm laughing. As I'm laughing, I'm trying to explain to Isaac. I was like, "That's not a very nice thing to say." And he's like, "Why are you laughing so hard?"
Please don't do this in a presentation where you are forced to have a presentation group and show it to the whole school.
I'm so
Yeah.
terrified. I'm going to get a phone call that he's going around telling people that they don't have a penis or something.
No, he'll do it very publicly. Like, I'm interviewing my classmate on stage in front of the whole school, and this boy has no
Oh
penis.
my
Like,
God.
he'll
I know. And
and you'll be sitting in the background
Oh
going,
my
I should
God.
have never shown Wayne's World to an 8-year-old.
And I lost all credibility, Amanda, because I was laughing because it was genuinely
it's funny.
hilarious.
Everybody finds that funny,
Oh my god!
except for your son's future, like, suspension from elementary school, and he pulls this on the principal or something.
So this is where the Wayne character is just so funny. This is where he's the hero.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're cheering for him. Like, you're
100%.
totally on board with he's like put into situations where he just reacts genuinely, and it's funny as hell. By the way, do we still have the beep for swear words? Not that there's any swearing in this movie. You and I will probably swear more than...
Yeah, I think I'm still gonna
The
do
movie
the
did.
beep. And listeners, last episode I was saying that my daughter for Christmas got me a bleep sound effect.
We're officially censored
Yeah.
by a tween.
We are officially censored by a tween because she's just like, "Why do you curse so much?" You and Amanda need to like bleep that out. So I think I will
don't know.
still do it.
It's a hard world. Sometimes you just gotta yell, fuck it.
Sometimes you do, and basically, listeners, you're hearing all the bleeps. I'm probably gonna still
Yeah.
bleep it because she'll probably listen to this because she did watch like half the movie. So there's that.
Okay.
Yeah, if you haven't seen this movie in a while, you will be surprised by some lines and find
Yeah,
yourself
I thought it was
laughing.
gonna be way worse than it actually was. Like, I was delighted. Actually,
I'm still like I have a
rewatching
slight tear in
Wayne.
my eye from laughing just relaying the story about this man has no penis.
Spanish penis.
I'm gonna do this on a Zoom
Delightful.
call. Can you imagine? If I just like on a work
Just
Zoom,
hold it up.
Hold it up. This man has
About the guy who's like driving in a car and isn't on the video for your.
so he
Zoom call.
can't see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Ways to get fired.
All right, we got to talk about Wayne has a best friend, Garth, who looks like he's on the X-Files, acts like he's on the X-Files. This is played by Dana Carvey, the immaculate Dana Carvey from Saturday Night Live. He's so great.
So great.
And like subdued, but like doing weird shit in the background the whole time, the same way like Ken is doing weird shit in the background of the Barbie movie sometimes. Dana Carvey, Mike Myers, they weren't totally getting along as they like
didn't
did
know
this bit
that.
on SNL, and they didn't totally get along when they were making this movie because Mike Myers just kept cutting all of Garth's bits out of the movie, and Dana Carvey just finally threw a fit and was like, I'm going to walk unless you just let me ad-lib whatever the hell I want, because that's his kind of comedy. Like,
Yeah. And he's good at
as
that
an
kind
SNL
of
guy.
comedy. I mean,
And he's really good
yes.
at that. So they gave him free reign, and like the whole bit where they're like lying on the car and he's just like,
right
do you
there.
ever think Bugs Bunny looks great as like when he puts on a dress and is a girl bunny? Like,
She's like, do you ever
forget-
find Bugs Bunny attractive when he dresses up like a girl?
puts on a dress. Yeah.
And it comes
like-
out of nowhere.
And so that was the two of them. They're doing like the lighting test on the car. That wasn't supposed to be in the film, but
Oh
it was
my
just like, we're
God.
getting ready for like rolling an airplane over you guys. Yay.
Yeah.
And like Dana Carvey just comes out with that. You see Mike Myers just be like, what the fuck?
Such a genuine reaction.
And genuinely laugh for so long. And then they like flew an airplane over the two of them.
But the funny thing is that
It's
he says
so
no.
funny.
Like Wayne is like
No.
no, and Dana's like, yeah, okay, me
me
neither.
too. Yeah.
It's
Also,
so unhinged. One thing with Garth is watching as an adult, this is the new dimension to the humor, is that That is hilarious and comes out of nowhere. I don't think I really realized how random and funny that was when I was a kid. But
Yeah. No. Garth, like letting Dana Carvey just do whatever he wanted on the set of this movie and like say these things, it's so much funnier. And like, I'm sure there's like all sorts of cut bits where he's just
I
doing
would
random
love to see
stuff
the cut bits. His character is like delightfully weird. The Wayne character is like super outgoing, and the Garth character is
Yeah.
clearly like an introvert.
He's an introvert, probably on the spectrum. Like he's every guy you and I went to college with, if I can be honest.
Sorry, Haverford grads for talking
We
about
love
you.
Haverford, but
You're a bunch of Garths. But
you guys are deeply in the Garth territory.
there was that part after Wayne insults the arcade guy, he like storms off set and it's a live show. And then Garth is left there like to carry the rest of the show. And he
It's
is
so awkward.
awkward. And they really let the camera linger. And he like Garth even starts to move back. Like he's like, everything's fine. And then later when he's relating this to Wayne, he's like, it was really like upset when you walked out of the set, but you know, I handled it. It was like so
It's
no,
not
no, you
handled.
didn't, bud.
Not even remotely handled. He's super shy.
Super shy.
He's
Love it.
quietly brilliant. He's kind of the getaway driver. He's kind of the hacker. Like he's your everyman, but like awkward as fuck. And he's like the tech nerd who fights bullies. He's got so many different things going on, but like
I loved
quietly.
Nerdy Garth. Like I loved him in this in a way that I don't think resonated with tween me because Wayne takes center stage and I don't think he resonated as much with my son. My son even thought Garth has this whole crush on this like other hot blonde, which I did find slightly cringy. And Isaac was like, I don't get it.
Fair.
Yeah, and like
Wait, time out. Can we talk about the Foxy?
oh, the
performance?
Foxy dream. Yeah, explain for our listeners because I forgot about this scene.
The setup for this whole thing, there is a spoof donut shop that's based on Tim Hortons. They have it based on a different hockey player. There's a lot of hockey jokes quietly running through
Oh,
this movie.
I
So
totally didn't get it.
Stan Mikita's Donuts, different hockey player.
Oh, I didn't
But
even notice that.
It's a spoof of the Tim Hortons donut
Yeah.
shop chain that's very popular in Canada. Mike Myers is Canadian.
Yeah, he's
Fine.
Canadian.
Yeah. So Stan Mikita's Donuts, which by the way, Stan Mikita is in this movie.
Really?
Like just hanging out at the donut shop as like a guy at the bar kind
Yeah.
of thing. There are some very hot waitresses unnecessarily. at
unnecessarily
Stan
hot.
Mikita's Donuts. Also, an epic appearance by Ed O'Neill.
Epic
As
appearance.
Glenn, the donut shop manager.
Oh my God.
So funny.
So great.
We'll talk about him in a second. So Garth is in love with this blonde waitress at the Stan Mikita's donut shop, and he, in a dream sequence, goes over and punches the jukebox and puts on Foxy Lady by Jimi Hendrix and does this improv dance that just it's got so much energy and it is so weird.
So weird.
That
and it's like
somehow
awkwardly sexual.
Apparently it wins her over, but it's just fascinating to watch it. Like in this again, all improv, like let Dana Carvey just
Yeah.
go. It's not appealing, but it's like fascinating. Like look at this weirdo go.
I don't think it quite landed for me as much this time around. It's a little cringe because it's all about looks and it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah,
And
like she doesn't have any lines.
no
in
lines.
this
She's
film
just
at
a
all.
hot blonde. Even Isaac was like, had secondhand embarrassment from this whole scene, even though it was a dream sequence. And he just turned to me and he goes, what the heck? Like,
Okay.
it just didn't land, at least in our households. But Garth himself landed with me as like this delightfully
Yeah.
weird guy. I love how Garth tries to like get the camera to follow him and he like tries to like talk to the camera and he like is very uncomfortable
He's
talking.
nervous about
Yeah,
it.
he's like drops a pen on the floor and then like he gets the camera to follow him to pick it up. That part,
Yeah.
that still resonated with me as kind of cute.
He's like smart, but not socially smart. So he does recognize what Ben Rob Lowe's character is up to.
Oh, that's right.
Most of the
Yeah.
time, and he is trying to tell Wayne like, "Hey, this guy's just trying to steal your girl
Yeah.
and has no interest in our show." And Wayne's not listening to him because Wayne's like the idealist and
Yeah.
optimist. There's a scene where Ben and Garth, or Ben's trying to like win Garth over to like try to get Wayne to do more commercials and promos. And Garth is building this like robot hand
So weird.
that he like hits down with a hammer. But when I was reading about it online, they were like, he's building a robot to kill Ben. That was the hand from it. Gets reacting 'cause it's trying to kill Ben,
that's
and like
so...
he hits it with a hammer to like subdue it. But it's just like overall, Garth is an incredibly loyal friend.
Yeah.
And
Also,
he's
that
ridiculous.
scene is like, why is he
It's
building
funny.
a robot hand on set? Like, it's the Garth is so weird. And then
He's
when
super weird.
Rob Lowe is talking to him, he's talking about making changes, and Garth says in a deadpan way, "We hate change." And then when the hand moves that he's created, which is weird, he grabs a hammer and just starts in an unhinged way, like
Yeah, because
hacking
the hand starts acting up.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna like go
so
for it's gonna
unhinged.
grab Rob Lowe by the throat there. Like I don't know what Wayne's World was like when it was at Second City, but I
Yeah.
feel like he rounded out having a loyal best friend who's your ride or die is really nice in this movie. Like
Garth also has one of my favorite lines, which I forgot about until I watched this. You know what line I'm talking about?
I don't
As
No, do
listeners
it.
will know that I hate a road to marriage type of storyline, and I actually don't remember the context in which this line comes up. But out of nowhere, Garth, somehow marriage comes up. Maybe they're talking about the crushes. I actually don't remember. But Garth just like casually throws in there, marriage is punishment for shoplifting in some countries.
Yes, I did write that down.
I love that line. It's so funny.
They're clearly in like their early 20s, but somehow old enough to drink. Because every time they go somewhere, Garth orders like the weirdest food and the weirdest drink possible. So when they're signing the contract, he is drinking a punch bowl of like blue curacao, something with everything umbrella and swirly straw and little floaty ducks that you can put in a drink. That's his vibe. We like Garth.
We do. I
We
liked
like
him
them hanging out
more.
on the hood of a car.
I liked Garth more as an adult than I did as a kid.
All right, Jessica, I want to take a quick aside to talk about how public access television used to work.
I love this aside. I sort of work in TV.
I sort of used to work in film, also not
Yeah.
public access television.
I say
but
sort of TV because it's all fucked up now. But anyway.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's very different now.
Yeah.
But back in 1992, in the days before TikTok and YouTube, if you wanted to make content and really, really had the drive to put yourself out there to do it, there was public access television.
Yeah.
Which legally, with the onset of cable providers by law in the United States had to give a portion of their proceeds to the city that were hosting their channels and give that city airtime to put on whatever. Like you could flip through the menu and like get to these channels. So it was like just the most random stuff that I remember when I was in high school. It was like city council meetings and high school
Yeah.
basketball games. So Wayne has like hacked the system to basically figure out how to make his own YouTube channel back in the
Like,
1990s when it was really
Like a
hard
good
to do
15 years before YouTube existed, or
Yeah.
even the internet for any kid or even like a young adult. Think of this as like a YouTube channel that some rando creates. I mean, there's something I think modern about that for these days, because these days anyone can have a phone and a laptop and do that.
Yeah.
There's so kids could understand that. They weren't understanding the whole thing that somebody could be, quote unquote, the term flipping channels, that someone has to be watching TV in his limo, the music exec guy at the end. So you kind of have to do some explaining for kids, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't take away from the plot.
Yeah, no, they MacGyver the heck out of that.
Yeah. A few things that I thought were funny about the whole cable thing was that Rob Lowe is and his producer are trying to pitch this to the sponsor, and he like uses all these like dumb buzzwords that honestly still prevail in television and streaming. He's like, these guys are really like authentic. They connect with their audience. And honestly, like this,
still a thing.
you could be talking about Logan Paul or whoever that idiot is who like boxed Mike Tyson. Like he was basically using terms and words that you would use now. So I thought that was funny.
I hate to say it, but watching Wayne's World, I was like, well, Wayne does seem authentic.
No, yeah, absolutely. He does. It's also something
Well,
funny about how Wayne and Garth are like learning more professional production when they're teaching them how to do a countdown to live, and that the
God, I love that.
it's such a good bit, and they count down from 5 and then the 3, 2, 1 is silent, and they keep having to do retakes because like Wayne and Garth's characters are like counting along with the producer.
They're nodding their heads and ruining the tape.
And then each time they do the take, it's like they're trying not to nod their heads, but they're like mouthing it. They're like,
Yeah.
both my kids, Lily and Isaac, thought that was really funny.
All right, we have a few more characters we need to get to.
Yeah.
Let's talk Cassandra,
Let's do
played
it.
by Tia Carrere, who is singing. She is wailing this whole movie.
She's a
And
good voice.
I remember, had a singing career after this.
Yeah,
but
she
it
won a
didn't-
Grammy or something.
I just remember people reacting to it because she was doing like soft rock after that.
Oh, was
or,
she?
like,
I didn't
adult
know that.
contemporary,
Oh.
and it was not heavy metal. And everyone who watched Wayne's World was like, "No, I just want to see her scream Ballroom Bliss." Like, she could sing any genre, but she was singing what she actually wanted to sing after this movie, and people are just like, "No, I want the Wayne's World stuff." But in such a broy movie, this character it's made to be pure eye candy, but she has a female director, a female screenwriter, and like she's a great actress. I feel like she performed this in a way that doesn't make her eye candy. That she actually has her own presence in
She
this
does.
movie.
She definitely does. And if folks don't remember, she's the hot rock and roll chick. She becomes Wayne's girlfriend. It sort of moves the plot along that they break up and he wants to impress her by getting her big break. Rob Lowe is trying to like produce a music video to like essentially get in her pants, you assume. So that's mainly the role of her character. But I think what I liked is that she was her own character. She stood up to people. She was pretty rocking out cool. Like she's super nerdy with the guitars. Wayne likes her because she's nerdy about music. But I mean, she's eye candy. Like, I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Yeah, no, they start her on stage dressed in lingerie, and she's the lead singer and bass
And they're like
guitarist
oiling up her
of
skin. I
band.
mean, she's absolutely.
And he's doing his whole swing thing, which
I find
that,
cringy.
That was a word of our.
It was. I
generation.
didn't love it. I was actually worried about it going in that it would be pure eye candy. So I was like a little bit pleasantly surprised watching it again now that she was pretty cool. She's pretty kick ass.
And they make it very clear she has her own separate set of goals.
Totally.
From Wayne.
It's not a road to
She-
marriage, for sure.
Yeah, she wants her band to succeed. She wants to succeed. This is all about the band and making sure we're successful, which Wayne is supportive of, but not a part of.
Yeah, which is
And-
great. Yeah.
That's totally great. I feel like Cassandra is given a little bit more to do here than I expected.
Yeah,
So I actually
100%.
like that. I'm not saying I love every outfit they put her in every time.
Oh
she's
my God, they
playing.
put her in ridiculous outfits. And some of that's
And Jess,
over
you're
the
allowed
top.
to say she's hot.
She is hot.
Honestly,
I mean,
she's-
she just is. But they
objectively, yeah.
Yeah.
I like her. I wish there were more characters like her.
Well, let's move on to the other beautiful person in this movie.
Rob Lowe.
I mean, I just assume he's beautiful. I don't really know. New listeners, I'm the resident lesbian of the
Yeah.
podcast. I should have mentioned that.
Yes. I'm the resident straight woman who will say, yes, he is a very good looking, healthy.
He's
He works
very
out
pretty.
a lot and he pronounces literally weird, but like, he's Rob Lowe. He's doing his thing. In this movie, though, he also used to be on Saturday Night Live.
Did he?
He
Get out of here.
Yeah, in the 80s. He, coming out of SNL, had a bit of a sex scandal.
Oh, really?
Cringy.
Cringy?
And, like, there was, like, okay, we're trying to recover his reputation. So he played bad guys and other SNL actors.
So to me, he was a villain that you love to hate. He plays the
Yeah, he's
cable
so good at being
producer. He's slick. He's definitely going after Wayne's
He
girlfriend.
looks like the missing Trump son, doesn't he?
He totally, I mean, like way better looking.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're not supposed to
He's
like
so
him.
greasy.
So
Yeah.
greasy. I so associate Rob Lowe with this character that when I started watching West Wing back, in the 90s, like I had a hard time detaching Rob Lowe from this character. So I missed the whole thing where he was an 80s heartthrob. Like I knew he was, whether I'm just too much of a lesbian or slightly too young to associate him with that.
He had a redemption arc in his career.
Okay.
We'll just leave it,
We'll
at,
leave it
that.
at that.
Don't Wikipedia unless you really want it.
I mean,
but
I
he's a
liked
very
him
good
as a
bad guy
villain
in
here.
this.
I thought he
He's
was
a
fun.
very good bad guy.
Yeah, you love to hate him. He's great.
Yeah, as a kid, I remember because I was too young to be like, oh, that's an attractive looking person. At this point, I feel like I've met people who aspire to be like
That's
him.
true.
He's really this middle grade ad exec. He's not the worst person in the world, but like,
He's not even the
Yeah,
worst
he's-
villain. I think that's actually kind of funny.
in the world, definitely not. But yeah, maybe even in this movie, he's not the worst.
Yeah.
He's your bureaucratic bad guy that you love to hate.
Yeah.
There's a number of other cameos that are pulled into this movie, but like really great characters forever. We talked about Noah Vanderhoff being played by Brian Doyle Murray, who's third appearance on this podcast. Sleeper 3P.
Nice.
Hey. Other random cameos, we touched on it, but Glenn, the manager of Stan Mikita's Donuts, played by Ed O'Neill, who is the only other person who is able to break the fourth wall and talk to the camera in this movie.
If folks don't know, just to remind folks, Ed O'Neill, married with children, Modern Family, dad, grandpa, whatever. Just in case you didn't know.
Legend.
Absolute legend.
Ed O'Neill.
Very young in this movie.
Yeah. I think this is when he's doing Married with Children.
It must be.
Simultaneous to that. They let him take over the fourth wall for a second. So Wayne and Garth walk past the camera and he just grabs it and basically confesses to murder.
Oh my God. I love it.
And they just like pop back in. And they're like, hey, no, you're not allowed to talk to the camera. And they take the camera away and it's left unresolved. And you just have this
it's so good how it's left unresolved.
Floating around.
Yeah. And he says things like Wayne and Garth might be talking about their crushes, and then Ed O'Neill kind of takes over the camera and he's complaining how society should treat crimes of passion the way that society treats wartime heroes. And just that little bit, you know that he killed somebody.
Like, he absolutely killed somebody. And now he's working in the donut shop. You keep seeing Garth stab the jelly donuts, and there's just like raspberry jam all over the place. I love everybody in the donut shop. It's like a Cheers setting where everybody knows each other's name, and at the end where they're like, who's gonna help us, and everyone in the donut shop stands up and puts a fist in the air and is like, I will.
I know.
There's just this team of donut shop bros who are complete randos, but like great. Outside of the Alice Cooper concert, we have the air quotes well-informed security guard played by Chris Farley, who rest in peace. Like, oh, it was so good to see him.
It was. I've never been a big fan of Chris Farley. He doesn't even resonate, honestly, that much in this. He's just kind of there.
He resonates only because he says all of this very specific information, and Wayne turns to the camera and says, hey, that security guard is very well informed, don't you think? I wonder if that's going to help us in the future.
Yeah.
Cut away for like half an hour.
This is where it's like a fun satire of these kinds of action movies. And of course, they use all that information later to try to like break the satellite feed into the music exec's limo. But it has a place.
All right, Jess, do you have any random thoughts about Wayne's World?
I think that there are just a lot of references that fell slightly flat for kids. This is more of a negative. So things like that are fun to watch as an adult. So there's a reference to Terminator 2. They have the actor who played the Terminator in that pull them over and ask them if they've seen John Connor. My kids have no idea what that is. We haven't seen Terminator 2 yet, which will be a future episode, I think.
Yes.
The reference for Pardon Me, Do You Have Any Grey Poupon? The whole Scooby-Doo kind of reference at the end. Like Scooby-Doo is not a thing for kids. I actually spent 5 minutes trying to explain to them why Grey Poupon is funny and how it was a commercial when I was a kid. But I found it really fun. And this is where it's a fun time capsule of a movie, and it will be for adults, but for kids or even young adults, it doesn't resonate.
Can I just go back on the Scooby-Doo bit, which we mentioned there's 3 endings on this, much like Clue. They kind of rushed through them. We're about to get to that. But one thing I did like is in the initial pass through the donut shop, they point at that character, the older man. And they're like, this is old man. I forgot his name.
They mention him. Yeah.
Yeah. It's Old Man Withers, and he owns the amusement park. And it is such a weird thing to say in the donut shop, but when they get to the Scooby-Doo ending, they pull the mask off and go, Old Man Withers, who owns the amusement park. And I love that they planted the seed at the very beginning, even though, that kids these days don't watch Scooby-Doo. I mean, I don't think I watch Scooby-Doo.
I think we're a little too young for it too. Yeah, I got the reference too, but the kids, my son did not understand. What about you? Any random thoughts you have that we haven't covered?
Yeah, a couple. One is there's this whole bit where supposedly Cassandra, she's supposed to be from a very specific place in China.
Yeah.
And she speaks Cantonese. Now, Tia Carrere, the actress, is from Hawaii, did not grow up
Yeah.
speaking Chinese. Clearly, Wayne is trying to learn. You see him with like the tape, like
I
trying to
know, with the
learn how to
little
speak
headphones.
Cantonese. That's kind of actually endearing.
Yeah.
And then later, you see Rob Lowe speaking Cantonese.
Hmm.
My question is, are they actually speaking coherent
That's a good
Cantonese
question.
or Mandarin or anything?
Or is it just gibberish the way that the German was
Is it
gibberish
just
and Die
gibberish?
Hard?
Because there's one joke that is hinging on whatever they said in Cantonese is very short, and that the subtitle just goes on and on and on.
That is
and,
funny. The characters are waiting
And they're
there.
waiting. They're waiting it out for the subtitle to
It's
catch up. And
slightly, 'cause they're
it's
cringe.
a funny bit, but like, are they actually speaking a language, or are they being super offensive? I have
No
no
idea. Someone should tell,
It-
listeners should tell us, because I don't know.
I'm putting that into random because I don't know. It might be excellent. It might be
Yeah.
really offensive. It could be somewhere in the middle. And the other thing, random thought that came out as I was watching this. So this winter, the Boston Globe loves to do all these like equivalent of March Madness, and they did a whole SNL cast because they knew they're coming up on the 50th. And two of the finalists going head to head against each other were Dana Carvey, who plays
Nice.
Garth in this, and Kate McKinnon,
Nice.
who in my head now I'm just like, I secretly want her to be his love child.
Oh my
or
God.
daughter
Hilarious.
that, like just unacknowledged. But like the fact that you had to pick one of them,
Kate
against
McKinnon,
the other.
obviously.
Kate McKinnon
Yeah,
won the whole
you gotta.
thing. I mean, she's such a badass. But like Dana Carvey was the badass back in the day, and I love that they brought him back to play Biden this fall.
Oh, yeah. He was good.
It was a brutal portrayal of
Ugh,
President
it's
Biden.
too
but
soon,
it was
Amanda. It's too
very
soon.
funny. But it was very funny.
Yeah.
It was very, very funny every time he did it. So anyway, those are my random thoughts. Is that Dana Carvey, I hope, is secretly Kate McKinnon's father. But never mind all of that. Things that suck or are cringy with Wayne's World. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I think we've covered a lot. We haven't talked about it too much, but it's been sprinkled in throughout our discussion. The whole, like, we're out to get the girls. The whole swing thing, I think, is a little cringy. And I think it's a little bit embarrassing, I think, for teenagers maybe to
Oh,
watch. I
God,
mean,
yeah.
like, Lily was a little bit like, oh, God, about it, and possibly contributed to her not wanting to watch. Not that she's, like, pearl clutching about it, but it was just embarrassing, I think. So I'd say that's a little cringy.
Yeah.
It certainly doesn't tank the movie the way that we found a lot of cringe in Teen Wolf or in Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, Teen Wolf is way
In
worse. Ferris Bueller's
Spaceballs,
way
there was
worse.
just so much humor that we
Yeah.
felt like was just, whoa,
Yeah.
that is just not landing today.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case here.
I know for me, from when I saw this in the theater, I always found like the ending was a bit of a letdown.
It confused Isaac, but yeah.
They're whipping so fast through. They start with the bad ending where the whole setup is, okay, we're going to have Cassandra and her band come over, tape an episode of Wayne's World in the basement. We're going to stream it into this record executive's car. He goes off his route to drive to Wayne's parents' house.
Yeah.
Pulls into the driveway. There's this big confrontation, and that's where we're going. So there's 3 different endings from that. The first one is the record exec comes in, says he doesn't like the band. Then Stacy comes crashing in and is like, "Wait, I'm pregnant." That's what
Okay, that one was funny.
that was a little bit like, I forgot about that bit. The switchboard lights up, and the whole house burns down, and Cassandra and Ben move to an island together.
Yeah.
That's the bad ending from Wayne's point of view.
Yeah.
But then they cut to this, they're like, no, that's not really the ending. Cut to a second one, the Scooby-Doo ending, where they pull a mask off of Ben, and it's Old Man Withers
Right,
from the
right.
amusement park, which also, yeah, like you said, that doesn't resonate with kids, and it's done so fast. They go to the mega happy ending,
Yeah.
but they don't spend a lot of time on it. So in that version, the record executive comes downstairs into the basement and is like, your band's amazing, Cassandra, we're giving you a 6 record deal. And then Garth's dream woman shows up out of nowhere, and then like Russell, the bad guy who switched to the good guy team, makes a whole speech about platonic love. Like, it just gets weird.
Yeah.
And Ben is like renouncing capitalism, and then they're just like, just kidding, and that's the end of the movie. And it just never felt like an actual ending. Like, none of the 3 of them felt like we stuck the landing here. So
Yeah.
I remember leaving the theater like, I don't know what should have happened.
Yeah.
I
I didn't
didn't
find
feel
the
like an
multiple
ending.
endings that bad. The Clue ones are certainly better because they're funnier.
Yeah. And the Clue ones go on longer. They give each one enough time to like kind of build up and then like give you
And
the
then they also
finale.
say this is how it really ended. Like it's kind of more clear in Clue.
Yes.
It didn't bother me because it's such a satire that it felt like it fit within the satire thing.
Yeah.
All right. So not too much for cringe, but what about anything that's, I mean, we've talked a lot about great things, but is anything we didn't cover?
I mean, this script is actually very tight, despite all the
It is
just
pretty tight.
segues and randomness and
Yeah.
yeah. It's got so much silliness, but it just keeps coming back to the heart of this, which is Wayne and Garth and their like bromance and that they're just trying to party on. My closing remarks and things that are great. This is silly. It's you'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll hurl.
You'll hurl.
That was, I believe, on the movie poster. Like it's just
That's true.
silly.
It was.
It made an entire generation, our generation, speak in this nonsense slang
Yeah.
that they just made up, and
Not.
we all went for it. I read an article that was saying that this movie was such a pain in the ass to try to translate for international audiences because
Oh, yeah, I
they're just
bet.
using phrases that never existed before and probably shouldn't have, but that just captured all of us English speakers and we could not shut up about them. So,
Yeah. I'd say my closing argument is that this movie is very much a time capsule. Even though I've
yes.
like found other things to appreciate about it, it's very much in the 90s. It has such a vibe that's specific to
Yes.
the time that it is hard for younger people, I think, to understand it and find it as funny as we do. But it still, I think, can resonate. So I'd say, I guess my closing argument is that it's kind of a time capsule. I kind of felt this way about Adventures in Babysitting too. Felt like an 80s time capsule.
I mean, it was made by someone who does documentaries. It is kind of a
Yeah,
rock
it definitely has
documentary
that
at the
vibe.
tail end.
Yeah, I think we're ready to go to ratings. So to
All
remind
right.
listeners, we will rate it 1 to 10. Does it live up to us as adults? And then we'll do the same thing for kids. 1 is garbage, and we've had some garbage. 10 is Princess
had
Bride in
garbage.
terms of the scale. If sometimes we cheat and we look at what we've rated other movies. I did not this time because I didn't have time. So
Okay.
I'm flying blind. I have no idea how I'm rating it. What do you have for me for adults?
I'm going 7. I so enjoyed rewatching this. I actually thought it was going to be way worse, and I was just kind of charmed by Wayne and Garth and how non-toxic they were. They just,
I'm surprised you didn't throw in your typical 0.5.
I did not. I liked hanging out with them again. It brought me back.
Yeah, it brought me back too. I agree. I went a 7 as well because I think that it's not quite the higher ones like Coming to America, but it's certainly funnier than some of the other quote unquote like dumb movies we've seen. So I think a 7 is a good one. So we very rarely agree so much, although we did agree
Except
a lot
for that
When Harry
last
Met Sally.
episode when we were perfectly aligned.
So that's a 14 for adults. That's pretty good for
It
us.
is. Yeah.
So next doesn't live up to kids today. I think we could say, or young adults perhaps. Same scale. What are you thinking? This one I don't know.
All right. I don't want to bias you with this, and I'm bringing my 0.5 back.
Bring it back.
I'm going.
I'm writing
6
mine
point-
down, so just so we know I'm not cheating if I
Okay.
agree with you.
Hold it up to the camera that only I can see. I'm going 6.5 on this.
Okay.
I think it still is a charming movie for kids, but I think you're right about some of the references being outdated. But I think even not getting all the jokes, it's still kind of funny and weird and kooky and be authentic, be yourself kind of
Yeah.
movie. So 6.5.
6.5. I'm pretty close. I said a 6.
Okay.
Because I do think there's some cringe parts, but I also think there's just a lot of old references, like the Terminator 2 ones and stuff.
Yeah.
But like my son enjoyed it. There's a silliness to it that is still fun. So I'm going
Okay.
6. Do some math for me. What's our total?
We are at 26.5, which I have not recently calculated our average for what lives up and what does not. I have our average overall, but not all movies live up, and we actually shoot down more movies than we
Do
say
we?
live up.
Well, so this is
We
getting
do.
to the main thing. The last question, regardless of score, is does it live up, yay or nay? We both have to agree for it to officially live up. I actually wasn't sure, even going into recording, what I was going to say.
Okay.
So I don't know, make your case. It's
All
not
right.
like Spaceballs where I was like, I fucking hate this movie.
Well, that's good at least. Because honestly, you gave that the same kid score that you gave.
Did I really? I gave Spaceballs a 6.
Oh, wait. You gave it a 5 for kids.
Oh,
I
thank
take that
God,
back.
because this has to be higher than Spaceballs.
Just a little.
Oh, maybe I should agree
So-
with you. Well,
Just my pitch. You asked for it. I had not seen this movie in a long time and knew that it was based on like an SNL comedy bit.
Yeah.
And knew that it was going to be super bro-y. But when I sat down, I actually really liked these two characters. I thought that they were like healthy friendship, that they were not being like competitive, showy, that they were not setting bad examples for anyone. They were just two guys who like to party on. They're out there having fun. I even think part of the reason Cassandra is leaning towards Wayne, despite the fact that she has a super cool loft and has all these people hanging out with her, that we didn't even talk about her real estate situation. We should have. I think there's something very enticing about being around Wayne and Garth. They're just kind of fun to watch and fun to be around. I would rewatch this again. I enjoyed watching Wayne's World, and I
would
didn't
too.
expect to. So
I'm going to still stick with my 6. So I am going to stick with that.
okay,
So for yay or nay, I'm
the big question: yay or nay? I think you know where I'm leaning, but
yeah, I think I'm going to say it lives up. It's going to live up to me because it was a really fun time capsule.
yay!
And I think the score number might not reflect how much we like it. And I think the only reason I think it lives up is because there's small things that I felt like I found something new to like about it, which is to me my bar for living up. I found the Garth character to be funnier this time around. Some of the lines I understood better this time around. I do think if you haven't seen this in a while, you would appreciate it to slightly more. I don't think it translates as much for kids. And the only thing is, if you're going to watch it with your kids, there's a whole thing of like, this man has no penis, so you've
This
been
man
warned.
has no penis and swing,
And swing.
and so many other things. There's no swearing though, and there's no actual sex in it. And these are just kind of like the nerdiest metalheads ever.
Yeah.
I didn't explicitly say it, but yes, I think this lives up.
Oh, yes, you
And
did not.
we're in agreement here.
We're in agreement. So,
So, yay.
Wayne's World lives.
Hooray for Wayne's
up.
World.
Good job, Wayne's World. Well,
Party on Wayne's World.
Party
all
on.
these years later.
game on.
Game on.
So, listeners, you could agree or not agree. Let us know on all the socials at Live Up Pod. Did you find it cringy? I encourage you to go watch it and then let us know. But yeah, lives up. Party on.
Party on, Jess.
All right.